like we got Anarchiosis, who is patiently waiting. So we're going to invite Anarchiosis to speak.
What's up, bro?
How you doing, Anarchiosis?
Doing good. My ears are bleeding after that wonderful conversation about, power grids and electricity.
They're bleeding. Why? What's wrong? You didn't like that?
No, well, no, it's fine. No, I agree with you. Nuclear energy is definitely the way to go. Like, I mean, I was sitting here like looking up stats and stuff, and like the first link that comes up is a government site, ironically, saying that like, yeah, nuclear power is like it's the way to go. I mean, it says it's what is it? It has the
Mm-hmm.
highest capacity factor, over 90%, and there's all kinds of different stats that like basically say, it's the most renewable path, it's the most efficient path, both land and energy usage. There's just a lot of wins
Mm-hmm.
that are going into nuclear.
Well, you came in here with your own debate. What do you got for me?
Dope. So first of all, I finished your book, so
You
that's
finished
cool.
it.
Oh yeah, I finished it.
So you are not convinced. You are not convinced, I'm assuming.
It was an interesting book. I mean,
Okay.
it hasn't made me a Keynesian. I'll say that.
Okay, all right. It turned me
Um,
Keynesian. I was like, "Holy crap, dude! They literally addressed every single one of the points that I would have made." Fancy friend Francis. I no, I do not have a book.
he
It's
doesn't have a
we're
book.
referring to a book
Austerity.
that's called Austerity by Mark Blyth.
Yeah.
Anyway,
You're
go
my
ahead, tell me. Yeah.
you're my book daddy. You give me the free books. So yeah, basically the idea of austerity, as Mark Blyth says, is it's interesting because he sees austerity as like a form of policies that are supposed to reduce government debt by cutting public spending and increasing taxes, which it's interesting. I think he sees austerity as a form of like Austrian economic policies or something like that, which they
Mhm.
kind of are. But it's interesting, and throughout the book, he basically gives all these examples, historical examples of like the banking crisis of like 2008, and like different things in like European countries, different examples, stuff like this of banking, and he's very much against. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's very much against bailing out banks, which is a libertarian viewpoint, by the way. We're also against.
It was interesting. Like at the beginning and towards the middle, all the way even towards the end, he was okay, like with the idea of bailing out the banks. And then, like towards the end, he kind of alluded to the fact that he was not interested in bailing out the banks. You know,
Yeah,
that he wasn't sure if it was the right call, is basically what he left off at.
yeah, and he was very much. He was kind of like going back and forth between the ideas, and at many points, I couldn't tell what his view was because he kept saying like, okay, these austerity policies are good, these austerity policies are bad, and he has an overall view of austerity just not being a good idea, generally speaking. But yeah, I mean, he does mainly go with the Keynesian view, but I'm more interested in like seeing, I guess maybe it's just how my brain operates, but I like seeing more like ground level examples where I can see it being constructed. He sort of just took certain case studies, and then within those case studies, he deconstructed why he thinks certain things happen the way they did, and he outlines basically the events that happen.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's definitely
So, I
like a
mean, did you
good
find an
history book.
issue with his arguments? Like, you found it to be bad, or like I don't.
Yeah. Well, so we already talked about this, but I think trying to, let's see, control for variables in macroeconomic environments is a very difficult task because you have to know the history of certain events. You have to know why certain policies
Well,
create
we do that
certain
all the time,
events.
though. And not only
Yeah, but
that, we
not
also have like
accurately.
computer economic models. I mean, there's like a level of inaccuracy, but that doesn't mean you don't do anything about it. Like, or like you just say it's hopeless and don't even try. That's kind of the problem with like a lot of Austrians is that they just sit there and they just have like their overall theory and they don't like want to challenge that theory or like try to come up with any mathematical system that could potentially be falsified. And so it's like impossible to actually like operate at an academic level with like an Austrian. Do you understand the issue?
Actually, I think that Austrians can make models at the base level, and I don't think Keynesians can do that. So I think Austrians can
What Keynesians
accurately.
do it all the time. What do you mean? What do you think what do you think global domestic product is? Is that just that was a Keynesian concept?
Global domestic what?
GDP.
Oh yeah, GDP. I mean, like, yeah, GDP exists, but like, it's hard to tell. Like, yes, we know when we know GDP is a very simple model, but it also, I guess, it doesn't like tell us the specifics of certain
Well,
things.
there
Like, it
are more
tells us that we
complex
spend.
models. There
Yeah, I
are
mean, it
more.
tells
I'm
us
just
we
giving an
spend money and
example. Like
then
this is
we
just
make
one.
money, but
Yeah.
that's a very like simple model because it's, I don't know,
Yeah.
it's very simple because it's like in, money out. That's basically what
Well, it
GDP
gives
is.
you
So it's
an
pretty simple,
output.
but
It gives you an output.
yeah,
It's like, all right,
yeah.
this is our current GDP. You know, it
But
doesn't
causes and
account
effects are
for
a lot more complicated.
disparity. Well, okay. So, well,
But I
but
didn't come
do
here
you
to argue
understand that like you can
Austrian
do a study?
economics with you.
All right, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. Fine. Fine.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. So I did my warlord video, but I'll let you finish that. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was fun. But I'm actually more interested in getting into the ethics. If you want to do that, because we've been arguing about politics and economics for a while, but I am definitely more interested because my what would you say? My wheelhouse is more like philosophy. Like that's where I started. That's like my favorite subject, and I'm interested in understanding your viewpoint better of like ethics, possibly meta ethics if you want to go there. But I'm much
Mhm.
more interested in I guess deeper base layer type stuff. So
Okay.
I mean, if you want, I can just I'm gonna ask you what your ethics are, and then I guess I want to ask because we talked about this a little bit before. Your ethics has something to do with entropy and the idea that your morality is derived somehow from I forget if it has something to do with evolution, but do you want to go ahead and tell me about that?
Morality is derived off of survival.
Okay, so practical morality, basically.
I mean, it's just like where I believe all morality stems from. Like it is all predicated off of that. Like for example, you have to ask yourself, why do we have uh, why is there, for example, religious systems? You know, really what it is that it's a concept that's stemming from tribalism that really was just predicated on like when we worked together, we tended to survive better, and so it would be survival. That's so like every single religious like reason why we do something, like the ritualistic things and the moral systems that we create off of that, it's entirely based on that. That's just one example.
Yeah, I don't
You with me?
disagree with that. I don't disagree with that at
Okay.
all. So the way I see it is, morality has two ways it can go, and this is sort of the ongoing debate in philosophy: is morality practically good or is it intrinsically good? And or sorry, useful? Is it like intrinsic? Is it intrinsic or is it practical? And what we mean by this is there something that we don't quite understand that it is good because it is intrinsically good, meaning the good is within the action. Now, we don't fully understand what goodness is, what wrongness is, what evil and goodness is. We don't understand these things. And objective moralists would essentially have the position that there are these objective truths about morality. But on the other hand, there would be people which I would consider maybe anti realists, such as which I think you are and which I am, which is we only see morality as we don't see enough evidence for objective morality. And what we see as
Or
morality
there isn't
being,
objective morality. It's just not true. Objective morality is false.
because there's no evidence for it, right?
Um,
Because you would
Well,
believe it if
no,
there was
because
evidence
the
for it.
concept, the definition of objective just means it's not up to human interpretation. And the fact that there can be people that just disagree about what the rule ought be, that means it's up to human interpretation. I mean, I can even take the most insane things ever, you know, there will be somebody in history that will have justified it.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so basically, you see morality as practical, meaning it's for your benefit, right? It's
It's
for our benefit.
everybody's benefits, but
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. So your ethical system is essentially, tell me if I'm mistaken, is your ethical system that whatever is best for your survival is ethical?
Whatever is best for my survival is ethical. No, because like I mean, there's other people's survival that's also incurred there. Yeah.
Okay, so your morality is that what is ethical is what's best for everyone's survival.
Well, there's a bit of a caveat there, mostly because I've observed that societies that respect the rights of rights of individuals tend to be better off societies. Like people survive better as a result, and so the end result is that we tend to not go in the realm of I guess a collective good, right? Because I could see the cliff, right, of like a collective good. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you could justify all sorts of atrocious actions should you know that you save, 51% of the people, for example.
Okay. I understand. Um, I wanted to talk about egoism, but for a moment, I just want to go a little bit deeper. Um, would you say, tell me if you disagree with the fact that you live because of pleasure?
No, I don't believe that I live because of pleasure. No.
Why do you live?
Hmm?
Why do you
There's no
live?
why. There's no why.
What the hell do you mean there's no why?
The universe doesn't owe you a why.
No, the universe doesn't owe you anything.
Correct. It's not an anthropomorphic entity, so you're attributing a why to something that is not anthropomorphic. It's a nonsense question. You're
Do you
asking the
believe
rock
in
why.
do you believe
Why
in
are you
the
rock?
do you believe in the
You
principle
know.
of sufficient reason, meaning everything has a purpose?
Well, no, no. I think that
The law of
there's lots of
causality?
things that just don't exist have no purpose whatsoever.
Okay, well, I think we're gonna have to disagree here. I mean, you agree with the law of causality, though, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so the law of causality is essentially, everything has a cause.
yeah.
But
Everything
so
caused by something prior. Yes.
this is a conversation topic for another time. But I have like sort of bridged the gap between the law of causality and the principle of sufficient reason. It's really not that hard to cross. But essentially, what that means is everything has a reason or purpose. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean a spiritual purpose or anything like that. For example, the reason you exist is because of billions of factors before you. Okay, in a deterministic way. I don't think you would disagree with that. You were caused by something else, right? And that means that you have a reason, and your reason is that
No.
you were caused by this thing, and this
Nope.
thing is your reason.
Nope. You're
Okay, well,
attributing reason to something that's not anthropomorphic. You're doing it again.
what do you? So I think what we're coming into is like a disagreement on the definition of
Ask
reason.
yourself to the rock, why am I here? Does that sound like a sensible question to ask a rock?
Just because a rock doesn't know the answer doesn't mean it doesn't have a reason, right?
Is the rock conscious?
No,
Okay. But what if
but it
I
was,
made the rock bigger? Hey, mountain, why am I here?
the mountain was caused by something.
No, 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 no. I'm asking not the rock, but now the mountain. Why am I here? I understand the mountain is caused by something, and that's a how, not a why. But let's go ahead and ask the mountain, why am I here? Is that a sensible question to ask a mountain?
No,
Okay, let's make it bigger. Hey, Earth, why am I here? Is that a sensible question to ask the Earth?
No.
Hey, universe, why am I here?
I get your
Is that a
point.
sensible question to ask the universe?
I get your point.
Okay. And then we go to the last one. Hey, cosmos. That would be beyond space time as well. Why am I here? I invoke no anthropomorphism. We're just simply here. You see the issue?
We are
There
here,
is no
but
why.
wait, you sound like Yoda, bro.
No, I'm just pointing out there is
Listen,
no
there's
why.
a
It makes
cause. There
perfect
is.
sense.
So,
No,
okay.
we would like there to be a cause because we are immensely conscious ape creatures that desperately want to find purpose because of our immense consciousness. However, the universe doesn't know, nor does it care about our immense consciousness. We're just sitting there racking our own brain over a thing that isn't owed or given.
Yeah, I don't disagree with
That's
you
the
here.
reality.
I think we need to. I probably started too broadly, and my whole point is that man acts purposefully, and I don't know if I don't think you can disagree with this, but the first law of praxeology, which I know you don't like praxeology, or maybe you do, I don't know, but the first law of praxeology is that man acts purposefully, meaning everything you do is an action and it's done purposefully. So there's nothing you can't do that's not purposeful, basically. Right? Would you disagree with that?
No, I think you could do all sorts of pointless crap and it's nothing.
Give me one example.
We're doing it right now.
My point is everything you do is some sort of reaction or there's some sort
But
of
wait,
reason you do
like,
something.
why are we doing this?
Why are we debating?
Yeah,
Well, I know why I'm doing it. I don't know if you do.
go ahead.
I'm doing it because I believe that this has something fundamentally to do with the purpose of life. And I don't know if you believe in purpose, but to me, interacting with people is
I
a
don't.
fundamental
Not at
purpose
all.
for life. And I don't know what that means exactly, but I just know that it somehow has to do with people. So that's why I do this. So that's why I talk to people. But
See,
so
like
the
for me, like I would be a more of an optimistic nihilist. I know that sounds like a bit of a misnomer, but it really does make sense in the sense that there is no purpose, but it's kind of cool we're here. And aren't the patterns cool? Doesn't it excite your ape brain chemicals? It's cool. It's kind of cool. I like it.
I agree with you logically that nihilism is the what would you say, the end result of logic, because it's just true that depending on your goals, you wouldn't say that, like, you have goals in life, right? You can call it whatever you want, reason, goals, but there's a reason that you keep moving forward. There's a reason you don't self-delete, and that's what I'm trying to get at. You act with reason. You have some
Well,
sort
no,
of
I
goal
just
you're trying
enjoy.
to
I just
achieve.
in. It makes my ape brain chemicals excited. I enjoy it. That's
Okay,
that's what it
so
is. That's why I
wouldn't
don't
that be
self delete.
wouldn't that be pleasure then?
No,
It,
no,
you
no. I
literally
think
just
I think there's
described
a.
a
Well,
neurochemical
it could.
reaction.
No, no. I think it's probably more appropriate to call it satisfaction. It's probably better, because I think there's lots of things that you do that don't necessarily bring you happiness, but it does leave you more satisfied. Like a good example is like maybe you value the concept of family, but in the aspect of like valuing the unity of family, you got to deal with your stepmom, and you don't really like your stepmom all that much, but you value the concept of family, so you just kind of chug through it, right? And it's like you didn't enjoy that, but you are more satisfied in knowing that existence. So it doesn't really require like a hedonistic outcome.
Yeah. And that I think that all goes just to say, which is why I think you can logically prove egoism, is that this axiom that I found out, which is the self does what the self wants. And I've realized that there's no rebuttal, there's no negation to this axiom. It's just true. There's simply no way around of not doing what you want to do given your set of circumstances. And that's why I see that egoism is a compelling psychological profiling of each human being. We all do what we want to do. Do you agree with that?
That went way over my head. You're gonna have to repeat it.
The self does what the self wants.
The self does what the self wants. It appears to be that way, but sometimes you do things that you don't want to do, but you do it anyway.
For example,
Haven't you ever had to do like a chore that you don't want to do? Like,
yeah. So
what?
like for example, I do
What?
chores. I wash dishes. You know, washing dishes isn't that bad. You know, a lot of people like you can put on a podcast and wash dishes. You know, and it's pretty chill.
Well,
But
yeah, I get it. I'm just pointing out that sometimes you do things that you don't want to do.
yeah, I know.
Like
I agree
sometimes
with
you don't
you.
want to go to college. Sometimes you don't want to like go to your work. Sometimes but
Yes,
it
this
is
is
what it
all
is.
true, but
What's your
we have to
issue?
take into account everything, not just short term goals. We have to take into short term and long term goals. So why do people go to the gym? People don't go to the gym because they're masochists.
Some long
People go to the
term
gym
benefit.
because they want the long term benefit. Exactly. People eat
Or
lettuce
you could just
because they want the long
be
term
like me
benefit.
and just see no gains whatsoever for years.
No.
And you still go.
Damn. Oh, it sucks, bro. I believe in you.
Well,
You're looking good. You're
yeah,
looking real nice and thin on that.
you
Yeah,
know,
there
a
we
little
go.
bit, got
Oh
a little
yeah.
bit, but
Oh
it's
yeah.
that's 3 years. That took forever. That took forever, bro.
Now
And I
them some
swear to
gains.
everybody's gonna tell me they're gonna be like, oh, you need a diet, you need to, change your fucking protein. I don't know, whatever. Who cares?
So true. But I think yeah, this is the point, which is you have a stronger preference to be healthy than to enjoy, say, like a Big Mac in that moment. You know,
Oh
it's
no,
gonna
no. I
be.
have my cheat days, bro. Listen,
Oh damn.
listen. I will eat. I will slam a freaking Big Mac, bro. I will slam two of those bad boys.
And you're wondering where those gains went. Damn.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, do you see my point? The self does what the self wants. While it's true, you have a what is it called? A ordinal. You have a list of preferences. You have a list of things that you want, and you have a ranking of those wants, and you will always do the thing that you want to do most. And this is true in every single situation. And this is why everyone is an egoist, because everyone does what their preferences. They act according to their preferences, basically.
Okay.
And I think this is a good thing for people to realize that they're all egoists, meaning everybody's selfish. But I think selfishness has a stigma to it that is always negative. But I don't think that's
I'm not
necessarily true.
necessarily against selfishness. Don't worry. I read my Ayn Rand. I know.
Yeah, rational self interest, baby. Okay.
Yeah, like I understand, but like there's a
Okay.
limit to it. Like obviously, like there, like you don't think that any level of altruism is appropriate. Are you with Ayn Rand on that? I mean, I
Well,
completely disagree with that.
so there's the question of what is and what should be. And I don't think that altruism exists at all. Also,
Why?
altruism, because you always do what you prefer to do, right?
No,
You
no. There
don't
are lots of people that do things entirely for the self interest of others.
because they want to, right?
Yep.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're saying that they're wanting to at the end. What if like, because I've seen people literally like break themselves down into like suffering, you know, and you have to physically pull them away from helping people because they're like destroying themselves trying to help people. Have you ever seen that?
No, I've never seen that.
You've never seen that? I've seen that many
I don't get out
times.
much, bro. Come on, you know this. But yeah, no. So listen, in that situation, in that extreme situation, I think that that person, yeah, I know, get your giggles in, get your good
It's
giggles
just, I'm
in,
sorry.
and then
Listen,
get your
I know
gains
it
in
seems like
afterwards.
I know it seems like I'm condescending, but like, it's funny. Okay, what do you want?
No, I know it's funny. Um, but yeah, I think that this is, you know, an example of some people. There are some people who are like super empathetic and like to the point where it pains them, like it makes their life a living hell, and that definitely sucks. I don't disagree
Well,
that
or
that
not. I
sucks,
mean,
but
you
yeah, but
usually go
also like on
down
the
and
flip side, that can also be a super positive thing to, you know, to experience. But I would say even in
But like
that
that's a
case,
level of altruism, don't you think? Like there's lots of people in life who lived an altruistic life, and they go down in history as some of the most liked people. Like I don't, I guess like this idea that altruism can't exist is just come on, that's just silly. Come on.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. I will surrender this case to you. I will give you this case if you admit that altruism exists within an egoistic framework, meaning you can be altruistic
I don't
within
know what you mean
egoism.
by an egoistic framework. That doesn't make sense to
Meaning
me.
the reason that you are altruistic is because you want to be an altruist. And you would never be an altruist if you didn't want to be an
No,
altruist.
no, I disagree. There's lots of people that have to be altruistic outside of what their will, like being a parent.
Okay, but the again, it's the same thing here. Like the parent cares more about their kid than
Hold on.
themselves.
Hold on. I think I actually just killed your entire argument.
Okay, let's hear it.
The parent thing, it is okay. Is it within a rational self-interest to abandon the children? Can that be within a rational self-interest?
Doesn't that depend on the interest?
I'm asking you, can it? Is it possible?
Yeah, it's possible.
Okay, and so a person through their rational self-interest abandons the child or their children. You don't
Mhm.
see any issue with this.
What do you mean? What do you mean issue?
Do you see any issue with this?
Like in the issue against this would be a case where somebody's acting altruistic?
No, I'm giving you the exact opposite. Your best case scenario where people aren't using their altruism, but instead they're operating under a basis of their own rational self-interest. You said it is possible for a parent to rationally self-interest themselves into abandoning children. So my question to you is this, do you see any issue with that?
Do you mean like a moral issue with it?
Yeah.
I don't believe in morality, and neither do you.
What? Yes, we do.
What? We do? This is news to me.
I
Wait, okay,
do.
wait,
I
what do
don't
we
know about
believe?
you. Let me ask you this. Why
Bro, tell me the answers to
is
morality.
it
I'm
wrong or
waiting.
is it right? Is it wrong or is it right? Abandoning your children for your rational self-interest. Is it wrong or is it right?
I don't believe that that's a truth apt statement. Wrong and rightness.
What? That is super obvious. Chat, tell me, is it wrong or is it
Chat,
right to abandon
chat,
your
take my
children?
side, chat. Chat, take my side.
Just write it. Is it wrong? It's okay. We got one. It's wrong. Okay, we got one that says it's wrong. Like, do you understand?
Yo, where's my
Like,
egoists?
it's wrong, but the statement
Egoists,
has
give
no
me a
truth
W. Give
value.
me a W,
Okay,
egoists.
Magnus says it depends. Of course, Magnus says it depends.
Exactly, it depends. But like,
Wrong
so
and right.
in your ethical system, it would be bad because it would be going against the
No.
collective
On
good of
almost
survivable.
any ethical system, almost any ethical system in the world, it's obvious that abandoning your children is negative.
But bro,
It
what
is
is this?
intensely negative. Well, no, because the problem is that you brought
What's the
children
third?
who aren't cognitive entities, or rather they have stunted cognitive ability, and they cannot consent or take care of themselves. And so what you would do is that you conscript people to taking care of their children.
Okay.
That's altruism by force. You are being forced to do that, right? And I'm perfectly okay with punishing parents that decide to neglect their children. That to me, that's obvious. That's like
Bro,
of course.
what are we talking about?
Well, I gave you an example of rational self-interest being the wrong decision, and altruism is the decision in this particular situation. And
Well,
anybody who is rational can come to the conclusion that that is bad, that we don't want to do that.
well, right now we're not talking about normative ethics. Right now we're talking about what is, not what ought, right? We're talking about what is. Do you see
But
the
I'm
distinction between
asking
those?
you, I understand. I understand. I'm trying to pull you out of the theoretical framework and put you into reality world.
I'm talking in reality. The thing is, you're talking about what ought to be, and then I'm talking about what is. So what I'm
What?
saying
No,
in
but
my
I'm
what is
asking you
claim,
based off of the what is, right? That what ought to be, right? That's what I'm asking you, right? And obviously there's a problem here. I think, like, I don't know, like, do you, I don't want to put your personal like thoughts into this, but I mean, you sound pretty young. You don't sound like that you've had to deal with somebody depending on you to like financially support them.
oh yeah, I'm a baby boy.
So like, if there's ever a point where you have to like financially support somebody, you would probably say at that point, it's not ethical to abandon them, right? If you are obligated, or like it seems to be like you are socially obligated to assist them, like what if your
But
mom gets too old
but right
and
now
you
we're
have
not
to
talking
change your
about
diet?
you're
Well,
right now.
think about
I
it, right?
understand. I understand
There
your
will come a
argument.
day your mom gets old, right? And she's gonna be old and not be able to take care of herself. There will come a day that you are likely to have to change her diaper, right? And she will not be able to do it on her own, but she took care of you. I don't know if do you have a mom? She take
Yeah,
care of you?
yeah, I have a mom.
Okay,
Um,
they took care of you your whole life? Did they feed you,
but
clothe you? They did
yeah,
all of the things?
but
Okay.
listen, we
So
don't even
so there
disagree
will
on this,
come a
okay?
day where
We
they're
don't
like,
disagree on this.
90 years old, they're not going to be able to take care of themselves,
So I
right?
asked you the question, can you show
What?
me an example of altruism? And I'm
Yeah,
waiting for a response to that.
I just gave it.
What?
Taking care of your kids and taking care of your old mother. That's an
But
altruistic belief. You are sacrificing your time and energy for this, not for the sake of yourself, but for the sake of somebody else.
but would you agree that there's parents that don't take care of their kids?
Yes.
Okay, what is the difference between those parents and the parents that do take care of their kids?
Yeah, I'll give it to you. One of them goes to jail and the other one is free.
Oh my god. No, what is
What
their
is
difference in
it?
motivation? What is their motivation difference? What's the distinction between those two parents? The parents that
Can
take
you
care of
just
their kids and the
admit,
parents
is
that
it
don't?
wrong to abandon children? I understand it's not the is, it's an ought. Is it wrong to abandon your children?
Why aren't you answering my question?
Answer the question. Fine, go ahead. What's the question? What's the
So
question? Go ahead.
so I'll answer
But I
yours and
want you
then
to answer mine.
I'll answer your question and then I'll re-ask mine. My answer
Okay.
is I don't think you should abandon your kids because I think
Thank
that'll make
you.
my life worse. Now, my question to you is what is the difference exactly?
Well, then, if there were no
Exactly.
consequences, you'd be perfectly okay with abandoning your kids?
If there's no consequences to me, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, yes, I am a villain. Oh, yes.
Bro, you just admitted that you'd like run as soon as you knocked up a girl.
Well,
You
so
ain't
like
paying child support. You're not doing anything. You're running for the hills. You're like, no.
what is it? Ejaculate and
Never heard from
evacuate?
that again, bro. Bro.
No, so like we don't live in that world. The world we live in is that the consequences that you enact on society eventually come back to you. And that's why
Oh my god.
I believe in a rational self-interest where if you commit to duty to doing good in your community, it will make your community better and that will make a better place for you. And that's why I think that you should do good into the world to make the world a better place so that the world can be a better place for you to live in. But yeah, that's what rational self-interest is.
So let me ask you this. What was your question towards me? You had a question.
So
And
my
I
original
forgot it.
question was we were talking about egoism and we were talking about the self does what the self wants. And essentially my question to you was I was trying to figure out if you could find any examples where the self doesn't do what the self wants. And my question to you basically went down to what's the difference between parents that do take care of their kids and parents that don't take care of their kids. And the distinction I see there is that
Yeah,
one
one of
parent
them is like a
wants
terrible person that is like a largely reprehensible individual across the entire world under the basis that they're making life worse for an unconsenting individual, right? They have created something and they have seen no responsibility for their actions. And we, as a group of people, come to the conclusion this is wrong. And so when a person does this, they go to jail. They go to jail, my dude, as opposed to the
Agreed.
one that does not, right?
Agreed.
But even
Because it
if
makes
there
society
was no
worse.
consequence, it's still wrong from a moral aspect. That's
But bro, I
obvious.
don't understand what we're disagreeing on. Like we're both consequentialists. I mean, arguably you are a utilitarian, but we're both consequentialists. We both want a better society, and we're both willing to
Yeah, do you
make
think
laws.
abandoning your children obviously makes a worse society?
Agreed, and that's why I'm with you with that.
Okay, then we don't want to abandon our children.
But what I'm looking for is not about what ought to be in like law, because my argument's essentially just trying to defend the concept of rational self-interest and egoism. I'm trying to look for an example of when the self can't do something the self wants. If you think about every single example of anything you've ever done, the reason you do that thing is because you prefer to do that thing. You want to eat ice cream? You ate ice cream because you wanted to. Why did you go to the gym? Because you want to put on some muscles. Now, you have a little more work to do, but like the rest of us, we're out here grinding. And the whole idea is that we're just basically doing the things that we prefer to do on a scale, on a hierarchy of things that we prefer. So that's all I'm saying. And I don't think there's anything controversial or weird about that. I think it's very, very commonsensical to say something like that. Thank you. I get a W
Okay.
from one guy.
Tuss. All right.
But
Well,
yeah, I mean,
do you want to walk away on that W, or do you want to continue? Do you have
hell
any
yeah,
other
I want to
questions for
continue.
me?
I'll take
All
10
right.
up. Well, what do you disagree? Do you disagree with egoism?
Uh,
But I think it would make your life so much
I need to read
simpler.
up more on egoism, but I still think my individual utilitarian arguments are make more sense. It seems to fit more puzzle pieces to me.
I think if you grounded utilitarianism and egoism, it would be a lot stronger basis. Um, because you're basically starting at a point where everything starts with the individual. And I know individualism, I know controversial subject, blah blah. But I think that if you ground the idea of why are you alive, you are alive because you choose to be alive. Whether that's free will, determinism, doesn't matter. The point is, you are alive because you chose to be alive. And this is the grounding of egoism. This is the idea that you do
I
things.
will need more time to read up on egoism. Yes.
Okay.
I don't know a whole
Okay.
lot about it.
Yeah. I
If
think
you
it's
have a
just a good
book,
grounding.
I'll read it. If you have a book, I'm actually between books. I'll read it.
True. Well, I read everything online, so
Ah, bro, read more
I
books,
know.
man. You learn a lot more. Trust me. You
I
realize how
know. The
dumb everybody
Stanford
else is. It's
Encyclopedia.
crazy.
It's a tough one, but
Okay.
but
You got anything else for me, buddy?
yeah, I mean, I don't want to hog up too much more time. Depends if anybody else wants to talk, but like I think that, I think that a corollary of egoism
Let's
is
see.
consequentialism and
Is
determinism.
there anybody that even wants to talk right now? No one's hand is up. Anybody's hand want to come up? Anybody?
This
Yeah, looks like we
bro,
got one. Yeah, we got one right
bro, you're
away.
cock
Yep, we
blocking me.
got
Come
two.
on, dude.
Well, okay. Well, listen. If you want to continue, let's continue. No big deal. It's not a big deal.
Okay,
It's
okay.
okay.
We'll
If you
just
want to
we'll
continue,
continue
go
for a
ahead.
little bit longer so we can talk.
Okay.
Okay, so I see consequentialism and determinism as corollary to egoism. So so I guess I'll just make the case for that real quick. So if we agree that the self does what the self wants, basically this can go straight to consequentialism, which means premise one, the self always acts to achieve what it values most in the moment, and this is the egoist axiom. And then premise two is what the self values most are the outcomes or the consequences of the
Are you a
actions.
psychological egoist or are you an ethical egoist?
Psychological. But I
Okay.
think that I believe that you will be mentally healthier if you accept what you would call, I guess, the shadow. Not to be cringy,
I mean,
but
I
if you
think
like,
generally speaking, people act within their own self-interest, but sometimes that's not the case, right? There's no like black and white term to like complicated social metrics. And I think like a fabulous example is my parent example. Of course you're obligated to take care of your children. And even though it may be in your rational self-interest to run for the hills because you knocked up some girl, that doesn't mean, therefore you shouldn't, or that you should do that thing. It's wrong, obviously, right? It's wrong. We know
So
it's
I
wrong.
think I think for the vast majority of people, it's against their self-interest to abandon their kids, and I think this is because parents have a strong
What?
emotional
No, there
attachment
are
to their
lots
kids.
of parents. No, no, not at all. There are so many people that abandon their kids as soon as they realize their girlfriend is pregnant or whoever they had sex with was pregnant. They run for the hills as soon as the
Okay.
girl says, "I don't want to get an abortion," and then they never hear from them again. And the kid lives their entire life with a kid with no father, right? And there's all sorts
What?
of negative social outcomes as a result of that, right? And
Sure,
that's
sure.
that's
That's
again the rational self-interest of the father to do that.
I don't think it is. Okay, I mean, I guess it
No, it
depends
it
on who
is.
you're
For
hanging
example, what if
around.
the father was married and they got a prostitute pregnant? It is in their rational self-interest to get the hell out of there.
Aren't you kind of deciding what his interest is? What if he wants to have that kid? How do you know?
What I'm saying it's logical to infer that that would be within their rational self-interest, right? Let's say they have three kids at home, a wife, and they got a prostitute pregnant. They will ruin their entire life if they don't run for the hills.
I mean, I guess it depends on the situation, but yeah, it could ruin your life. But it also could be a decision that the father makes to decide to, stay with the prostitute and have two families. I mean, it's a stupid decision, but
Well, no, no. I
perhaps
mean, you
he
can't. You can't.
prefers that.
To be honest, you need to get an abortion and,
Okay.
and never do that again. Never do it again.
Okay, dude.
But that's just me though.
But I don't disagree
I
with
mean,
you,
I
but
wouldn't have even been caught with the prostitute getting her
but
pregnant.
hold
That's just
on, hold on,
stupid.
hold
But
on. Aren't you kind
anyway,
of admitting right here that you're agreeing that that's what's in your interest is getting the abortion? That's what's in your rational self-interest?
that's one. Yeah, sure. It's a totally rational self-interest. Sure.
Okay, yeah.
I but
And
you
you don't
but
see a
you
problem with
understand that
that.
there are things where it is not the rational self-interest is the move. It's an altruistic interest. The world isn't revolving around you, it's around other people as well. Other people are involved by your actions.
So can you give me a good reason why someone should care about other people other than themselves?
I gave it the parents, your mom, being too old. These are examples that you ought take care of them. You are dutifully obligated from a moral perspective to take care of them. And that is not one culture, but many cultures over the courses of thousands and thousands of years. So it's a lot older and it's a lot more guttural than you think. And I think right now you're still young and so you haven't dealt with any of this, but you will one day.
Well, I don't disagree with you that it's very intuitive, right? I don't disagree with that, but is what's intuitive moral?
What? It can be, or it might not be. So there needs to be reasons, and you already came to the reason that it is moral.
Well, I already told you I don't believe in morality. But I agree with you that it can't be intuitive. It needs to have some other justification. And what I'm trying to ask you is, what is that justification? It's not something that's intuitive. It's not something that we collectively decide. It has to be justified by some external source.
You haven't been talking about morality this whole time.
Now, I've been talking about psychological egoism.
Well,
Bro.
we've been talking about oughts for the past 30, 40
No,
minutes.
you brought odds into it.
Yes, I did, but no,
Yes,
that
you
means that
did.
you saying that we ought, that means you are arguing a moral imperative.
Bro, I stepped into your box for like 2 seconds. I stepped into your box for like 2 seconds to answer that question. All I wanted to know was, could you disapprove my axiom? And that's what we were talking about
What?
for the last 30 minutes.
Bro, you're killing me. You
Okay, so
do
this
believe
isn't.
in morals. You have morals.
So, practical morals, right? Not intrinsic morals, practical morals.
That doesn't matter. You
Yes, it
have
does.
morals.
It does matter. Do you understand the difference between objective morality and I don't know, subjective morality. Like you understand the distinction between these things. There's a difference.
That's fine. That is an irrelevant distinction. You believe in morals. That's why I'm freaking out right now.
But I believe in a morality that you wouldn't consider morality.
It means you
Bro.
believe in morality.
But it's such a vague word that it almost has no meaning if we extend it out to my use of it. If we extend it out to my use of it, it's so vague it has no meaning.
What is your use of morals?
Because you can't say something is moral if it's either intrinsic or either practical. Because at that point, it loses all the point. When we talk about morality, we're talking about something that's intrinsic. Do you disagree with that? When you say something's right or wrong.
When I see if something is right or wrong, I'm sorry, what was the scenario?
So when you're, okay, so leaving your kids, is that right or wrong?
It's wrong.
Why is it wrong?
Because you're abandoning a non-consenting individual into the world and making their life worse indefinitely.
Why is that wrong?
Suffering? Unneeded suffering? It lowers their lifespan. It lowers their quality of living standard quantifiably.
So why is suffering wrong?
Huh? It's not that suffering is right or wrong. It's that it's entropic.
Exactly. It's not that suffering is right or wrong. Suffering just is. And that's what I'm getting towards. When you get low enough to the base layer, you essentially find that things are what they are.
Something has more. Okay, let me ask you this. Ought we live in a society that has more or less suffering?
Less suffering.
Why?
Because I want to. See, and that's the justification, right? The justification right there is rational self-interest. And if you get low enough, it will just come down to pleasure. Why are you alive? Because pleasure.
You have a very interesting brain,
I guess
Anarcheosis.
So. I guess so.
I don't know what else I gotta say to you at this point. I really don't.
Okay.
What you got for me?
I mean, determinism. Do we agree on determinism?
Yes.
Okay. My determinism is pretty simple. It's just you're gonna do what you want to do, and because you're gonna do what you're gonna want to do, you're determined to do what you want to do. Pretty simple, right? Now you would obviously have to accept my axiom that the self does what the self wants, but it's a very clear bridge there.
I don't think that's determinism.
That is determinism.
No.
Yeah. I mean, what do you consider determinism? You're such a giggly, googly, goggly. That's what you are.
All right, well, explain it. All right.
Okay.
Let's say that you were going to throw a ball and you knew the exact angle, how hard you're throwing it, and the density of the ball. Could you, in theory, mathematically know exactly where that ball is going to land?
Yes.
Very well. So, should you have these variables, all of the variables necessary to determine where it lands, it consistently lands in that direction if it's thrown the same way with the same variables. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say, for example, that I was going to throw a ball, but instead of throwing the ball on, say, a flat surface where it can bounce, we introduce like a rock or a boulder as a variable where it causes a difference in the angle, right? But in theory, say you took account for the angle of this rock and its initial angle, you would in theory also know where the ball would land, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So adding variables to the equation does not uh, stop it from still being deterministic. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it sounds like you're talking about mathematical determinism, basically.
Okay, well, it gets more interesting because if we had, for example, a supercomputer that was able to hold all of the variables of the universe, in theory, you would know where everything would go in the future,
Yeah, I agree with that.
right? In a deterministic way.
Yep.
Okay, well, so that's what determinism is.
True, exactly. And that perfectly maps onto my deterministic proof for the self, basically. So
Okay.
mine's a lot more simplistic than yours because you take into like the entire universe, and I agree with that. But
Well, but that's what determinism is. That's what it describes.
yeah, exactly. I think there's multiple ways of getting to determinism to logically deduce determinism, and I basically took a really simple route of just saying, um, I have one. Well, this is just human determinism, right? But there's also, mathematical determinism, like you basically laid out. But yeah, I
Uh
just
huh.
think that humans are determined to do certain things based on if you account for all the variables. If you account for all the variables, you will always have the same situation replayed over and over. So yeah,
Okay.
but yeah, but no, that's I mean my deterministic proof does cover that, but it's just a different way of doing it.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, listen, we agree on we agree on determinism, we agree on consequentialism, sort of maybe.
Does Keynesianism make more sense to you now after reading that
No,
book or no?
because because
None? None at all.
no, it was I learned history for sure,
Oh my
but
goodness.
the difference is we have
Who started the
different
2008 collapse?
uh the banks.
Thank you. That's what I thought. It's good.
Okay.
Good. It's
Oh yeah,
good. I love
get your
hearing that.
giggles in,
I
your
love
hit
hearing that.
against private, whatever. I think it's more a little more
That's
complicated
a
than that,
win in
but
my book. I mean, well, it's the fact that an Austrian is willing to acknowledge that. It's really
yeah,
it's very good.
but what you won't like is that I'm going to say the banks made extended credit lines that they couldn't realistically do in a free market, and you'll probably disagree with me on that. But yeah, but yeah, dude, I think we had a good conversation. I mean,
Yeah, man. It's good talk.
I want you to
You'll
look
see
up
the video get
egoism.
uploaded.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
Hell yeah. Appreciate that. Egoism,
no problem.
look it up. I think you would make a great egoist. I think you would love it. Your ethical system
I
is
have to.
interesting.
Okay. Well,
But
I'll
yeah,
have
we
to
agree
read
on
more into
a
it.
lot. Okay.
You got to
Yeah.
send me your um you got to send me what you read to understand egoism, or at least so far what you read, so that way I can read more than you.
Lol,
I
yeah.
was just messing. I was just
Beat
messing
my
with you.
ass in egoism. And you got to send me more books as Book
Okay.
Daddy,
Yeah.
as somebody called you in chat, Book Daddy.
All right. Do you want another book?
No, you don't. No,
No, I'm gonna send you another book.
don't send me any of those boring
I have
books,
so
bro.
many credits, dude.
Oh
I have
my
so many
god, it
credits.
was like listening to a 10-hour lecture. It was so awful.
You hated it?
No, I didn't hate it. It was just stiff at certain times.
Okay.
Listen,
All
I'm not
right.
a big history
This
fan.
one's
I'm
less
not,
this one's less like economically like oriented.
what
It's
is
called
it?
Fear by Bob Woodward.
Fear? What's it? Okay, that sounds pretty interesting. What's it about?
Would you be it's about Donald Trump's presidency. Do you know
Oh
who
my
Bob Woodward
god.
is?
Donald Woodward? No, who is that?
Bob Woodward.
Bob Woodward.
He was one of the main journalists that uncovered the Watergate scandal.
Okay. So it's an in-depth look on his perspective on Trump in the Watergate
No,
scandal?
well, Bob Woodward, he gets direct access to the president and as well as other high level officials that he is able to get a lot of interview and a lot of information that people wouldn't normally get access to.
Okay, interesting.
Would you like this book?
No.
It's more entertaining than Austerity by Mark Bliss.
I mean, okay, listen. If you send it to me, I'll get around to it eventually.
All right,
But
hold on. Let me stop sharing. Um, I'm gonna quickly stop sharing the Discord chat for a second
so you can protect my identity. Thank you very
so I can
much.
protect your identity. Hold on, give me 1 second. Let me see
Thank
here. Where is it?
you. Book Daddy
I'm
is
just
on
gonna
the
quietly
case.
hide that for just a second, right? I'll put it
Yes,
right back.
sir.
Just give me a sec. I'll put it right back.
My private
Um,
library.
and I'm gonna let's see here. I gotta pull up Anarcheosis. Well, let me take a look here. Did
Don't
you
worry,
delete
Magnus.
your
You're going up soon.
did you delete your email?
Nope, same email.
Okay, it's right here. So let me gift you Fear by Bob Woodward.
He's giving me a
This
book.
all
I'm
right,
gonna
hold on,
read
let me see
it.
here.
You want to talk to me?
How do I gift this? I need to know how to gift this.
You figured
More
it out
options.
once. I'm sure you can do it again.
Give as a gift. Okay, here we go. So this is your email and Anarcheosis first amendment today. Enjoy the book. Let me know if you want me to read a particular book. I'll read it. If it's on Audible,
Okay.
I'll read it.
Okay. Okay.
There you go, buddy. You got a book.
Thanks, man.
Enjoy. Yeah, it's a
I'll
really good book. Fabulous book. Really, really good
okay.
book. Yeah.
Entertaining. I like entertaining. I like thrillers. This sounds
Yeah.
like a thriller. Political thriller.
Okay. Cool.
It's not. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Um,
I guess you can take me down. You can talk to this dude.
okay. All right. Great. Good talk, man. I
Peace,
really enjoyed
bro.
it.